Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Better Pain, a wrestling podcast. I am, of course, the podcast mogul, the one half of this amazing tag team of awesomeness, Phil Better. And with me, as always, is the leader of this tag team, the Mistress of Pain herself, Tyler. How are you doing, Tyler?
I am the A-plus player today.
You
I am
are.
doing excellent. I'm off a week vacation. Everything's good. I'm well rested. It's a good day to be me.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's always great to be back here in the saddle and wrestling another podcast out of here. Um, Overall, how did you find wrestling this week? We had some pay per views, we had some okay matches. What did you think overall in the world of wrestling?
I think, quite sadly, it fell a little short. Um, we'll get into a lot of detail about that, but I think we wanted to talk about something that was very, very uplifting first off.
Yes, we're gonna touch on something very cute. I was over on CagesideSeats.com, and they were just talking about how Brody Jr., aka the -1, aka Brody Lee Jr. If you don't know, Brody Hoover is the son of the late great just
Brody Lee.
like Brody Lee, yes, before I just said his name, Brody Lee, and he was training at Natalia and TJ Wilson's gym, and he happened to get into an intergender match versus Liv Morgan. He did end up taking the W in that match, but there was a lot of positivity around it from the wrestling community, embracing Brody Lee Jr. and the -1, as well as his other Brody Lee's sons. In this, you can always just follow Amanda Hubert, his wife's Instagram, to find out more and see the video. But I love seeing this. It's happiness, sadness. You have two families, the WWE and AEW still coming together and supporting it. So yeah,
Yeah, it's always good to see the wrestling community come together and help each other out in any way they can. So that's really fantastic.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, we're gonna move on to some other things. You had some negative Nancy news to bring into the match, something you want to pin right away down. So why don't you jump into that? What are some of the bad news that we have to deal with?
So let me preface this by I was on vacation, so I did not watch Raw live as I normally do. What I saw
Ooh.
immediately after the show on Instagram, somebody had posted that the show was not worth watching and had some pretty very specific things to say about it that I won't quote, even though they were hilarious. And of course, this made me more curious than it made me want to not watch it. And so, uh, oh, ahead I went and I watched it. Raw. 7 matches.
7 matches for a 3-hour show.
Correct. Seven, I think the longest match was maybe 10 minutes, maybe. We had the Battle Royal um, that had the same participants as a later match.
Okay.
So we had Riddle and give me a second, and Kofi Kingston, who were both in the Battle Royal, who had a
Again,
match
going New
together.
Day versus the
New
Arcade
Day, which
Bro.
Archie Bro, which cool, I'm down for that. And but given that they were tired, it was a sloppy match, which you don't normally see from Kofi.
No.
Out of those 7 matches, we had two countouts. Count them 1, 2. You normally don't see two countouts in a month. What's going on, Vince? What's going on? Not only that, before that, bone
Oh,
to pick.
here we go.
The Viking Raiders. They were War Machine.
Yes.
Okay, that's a Marvel trademark. We can't use that.
There's also the negative things going on with the UFC fighter and the abuse allegations there. So
Yeah. So okay, we couldn't use that name. So they have changed their name a number of times. They are now the Viking Raiders. Uh, I don't know if you know what happens during a Viking raid, but we can definitely look to a number of common Netflix shows right now to find out. Not better than War Machine.
Mhm.
Not better than War Raiders. I would definitely say better than the Viking experience that they first came out in WWE or on, I believe they first came out on Raw.
NXT. They came out on NXT to
They came out
Raw.
in NXT, but they were what were they on NXT? It wasn't War Machine.
It
War
was like the
Raiders? War
War
Raiders.
Raiders. They were War Raiders. Yes.
Um, but the Viking experience is what they came out on as. I can't remember if they started on SmackDown or Raw. I believe they started on Raw. The Viking experience at this point, um, maybe just call them Vikings or something like that because it's not getting better. We'll move on. Um,
One of the
it,
many bones you have to pick with Mr. Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
oh goodness. Not to mention, I had totally forgotten. Remember when Vince faked his death and then Owen Hart actually tragically
Passed
died
away.
pretty
Yeah.
much on the next show? Um, I just got a reminder of that debacle on my Facebook of his birth and death date, and was reminded of that. Another bone to pick with Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Uh, Times were more novel then, I suppose. So then we end Raw. It's a bit of a bland show to begin with. Then we end Raw with Alexa's Playground. So I'm super on board for this. This is gonna be cool, right?
We've been loving the Alexis Playground, the way she's interpreting the Fiend.
Yeah, and I had heard how it was, it was not a good ending to the show, and so I was specifically excited for this. I'm not really sure why, because the rest of the show had proven to be exactly what the person on Instagram said it was. So it's in the ring. Cool. I'm okay with that. I don't know why you would go to the effort when you have a perfectly good playground and nobody's literally there. So
Yeah.
why are you shooting it in the ring and putting the effort? Cool. You're gonna scare Shayna Baszler with three things falling over and some lights flickering, and then a doll appearing in a mirror and not in real life, and in a mirror and not in real life. And then she breaks the mirror, and then she screams.
Yeah, they don't seem to know how to really scare this character who they built up as this badass. Like a badass won't be scared by something. They may be spooked,
Yeah, maybe a little
but
spooked. When she flinched when the pyro went off. Okay,
yeah,
I'm down with that. Yeah,
that's
a
fair. It's
jump.
unexpected. I would jump too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Any loud noise, especially accompanied by heat. Yeah,
Genuinely.
you're gonna jump. You're running through, finding a place to hide from a doll. You're a grown woman. You are an MMA fighter. You're a wrestler. You are a badass. You're hiding from a doll. Dolls are creepy. That's cool, especially with the weird little teeth going on.
Yeah.
Um, what are you doing, Raw? I don't watch 3 hours of wrestling programming for 7 matches of 10 minutes or less. That's a lot of talking.
So 3 hours at 60 minutes each. That is 180 minutes. 70 minutes of that. 70 minutes of that was wrestling.
Round it up.
Rounded up, of course. We're going with 10 minutes each.
Hmm.
Then you have at least 15 minutes each hour of commercials. So that's 45 minutes taken away of that. So we're now at 115 minutes
Yeah,
out of 100 and, how many did I say?
180
180. So that leaves us another 45 minutes pretty much of promos
of promos and music.
and music. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I want more wrestling. Like the promos should be like 2 minute promos here and there.
Promo should be a 2 minute promo. I Your main dude, maybe he takes a 5 minute. Maybe if he's really The Rock or John Cena and he's got that mic and
Or
he's super entertaining and it's like watching a comedy show, you can give him 10.
you get, yeah,
I turn
or
on wrestling to watch people hit people.
yeah, with chairs and
With
tables.
chairs, I'll settle for a candlestick. I'm super cool with that. I'm down for gimmick matches. I Why are we doing 5-minute entrances when there's no crowd? There's no cheering. There's no anything. Who are you impressing? We could rerun the entrances from WrestleMania if we're really missing seeing the pyro. Save the money, give me a product. You have let so many people go, and there's still a huge roster. I saw 2 matches with the same people in it.
It's getting ridiculous now that the promos are more. It's becoming more soap opera than wrestling, and I think that was caused during just after the Attitude Era when they were trying to switch and getting more soap opera writers. I think they need a new generation of writers who can properly use all the tools that they have in the wrestlers and make enter.
Make it
Pardon me.
entertaining.
Yeah, it's so boring. I'm falling asleep here. That's how boring Raw is this week.
If I'm playing Merge Gardens while I'm supposed to be watching wrestling, you don't have the next Steve Austin on TV. Like, if you're gonna make me watch a 10-minute promo, somebody better come out there with a beer truck. At the very least, a milk truck. You better be setting up a coffin or digging a hole. I don't know. Do something. But I do not want to watch Bobby Lashley, who, even though he was wearing the glasses again, I was like, oh, they listened. I feel like they noticed. They made him look so badass with the glasses. You zoomed in too close. I could see his eyes were white as saucers. He was terrified. There's not even a crowd.
Empty TVs. That's all he sees is empty TVs, and he's terrified.
Yes. I mean, if you got a weird TV fear, maybe it's a thing. I get it. I'm scared of weird things, but like
Are you
5 foot
though?
nothing, not 7 foot nothing. Like, come
True.
on. Don't be afraid of the
You don't
TV.
have muscles on muscles on muscles here.
I
You
really
are.
don't. I really don't.
Your muscles are
Um,
elsewhere. Um, I do. I do want to talk about this being the go home show for Hell in a Cell, and tonight when they go, there is some interest. I'm interested because there are only 4 matches currently listed: 2 for Raw and 2 for SmackDown. So this week is the go home show for Raw and SmackDown for Hell in a Cell. So we have Roman Reigns versus Rey Mysterio for the
mhm.
SmackDown or the Universal Championship. Then we got Mr. Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre, and a rematch again. I think this is the third rematch.
Should I
For
start booing now?
okay. It took 2 different number one contender matches, but eventually McIntyre defeated Kofi Kingston to set him up for another title match.
Hmm.
Then you have Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's Champion, and then Bianca Belair versus Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Champion. Um, Now, which of those 4 matches, seeming that it's going to be more, hopefully we have a tag team match for the titles or something in this, because this is a very skinny Hell in a Cell card.
And it looks like we're gonna get lots and lots and lots of promos again this week in Raw and SmackDown. Um, I'm really looking forward to the Charlotte and Rhea Ripley match. I think that's going to be a slobber knocker. I think they've been saving it up. And I am very, very, very much looking forward to seeing them in a cell because that ups the ante tenfold. Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley. We all know what I think about Bobby Lashley. I don't think a cell is going to improve his terror. Give the man a break. Just let him not be frightened. Give him like a falls count anywhere match so that the fans aren't there, so that he's not terrorized.
A street match in the actual streets away from the people.
Yeah, like, somewhere with like a drone camera that he doesn't notice. I don't know. Um, but yeah, and Bianca Belair, I mean, it's always on with her, so you know that's going to be a good match. So, I mean, realistically, there are 4 matches so far. Um, Given how many layoffs of their main star performers, there have been, or layoffs. We'll call it layoffs because they're calling it budget cuts, firings. Um,
Budget cuts, restructuring. It's all the same thing. You're laying off employees because you want to keep the money in the top and get as much money as you can.
which I mean, cool if you invest it in
Talent.
something, anything, not crap, not the product that's been coming out. Um, you know what? Invest it in competing with AEW. Uh,
Which,
they need to give me something. They need to give me something worth watching. I'm planning on spending an awful lot of time. I don't even know what they're really gonna do if you can't have a dark match to get your crowd riled up because the crowd isn't there. I don't get it.
well, they
I don't
can't.
even get how these wrestlers are eating at this point if they're not performing because they're used to performing like 360 days a year.
Well, they're resting. They're getting their body rest, which is great, and slowly it's opening up. But I'm I'm disappointed with like just 7 matches. You have these amazing talented wrestlers. You can tell these amazing stories in the ring and outside the ring, and fill up a show that doesn't feel blood. Make it flow. It seems like it's just segment. It's not a flowing show anymore. And
And
like,
realistically, you don't have a crowd. Film it all week.
yeah.
Just film it all week. Nobody's gonna know. Pretend it's one after the other after the other. Put Corey Graves in the same suit for a week.
Or
Nobody's there. They're not gonna know.
if it
Um,
is in Florida, there's like lifting of a requirement, so you can start having fans in the building
yeah,
like they do for NXT.
but like get people in the get wrestlers in the ring. Not the same for 2 matches. You haven't laid off that many people. You- Grab people from 205. I mean, you did it with Gulak and oh, why am I terrible with names today? And Mansoor. Put Mansoor on your main roster, actually, because dude's got a character and a look, and
I
he's
just
good.
I think it's just because Vince has a specific type of wrestler that he
Yeah, he
wants
doesn't weigh
people.
enough.
Yeah, and it's like, no, these are the guys that can actually do a match that will be entertaining. Like, yes, two powerhouses going at it, yeah, it's fine, but it gets boring because they don't, like, Drew McIntyre at least has a bit of an athletic ability,
Oh, for
but
sure.
when you're putting him against a powerhouse like what's his name, Bobby Lashley, who has no like real athletic. Yeah, he got this like 0 to 60 start for spears and like great like hulking crushes, but the athleticism ends there. You got Braun Strowman, who is relatively athletic for his size and can move and can put on those great matches, but I would
But
like
he's not there anymore.
he's not, and there's rumors that he's going to AEW, which he'll, like we talked last week, he's going to destroy. But if any of these matches, I have to agree. I'm looking at the Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. That's going to be a great match because these are two amazingly talented females. You have Bianca Belair versus the veteran Bayley, which I'm looking forward to just because Bianca Belair is surprisingly in the ring, and Bayley is just a solid performer, and I
Hmm.
love her kind of Karen-esque character. And Roman Reigns versus Rey Mysterio, I love because I'm a huge Rey fan. Loved him since his WCW stage when he was a lot smaller, and now he's coming back with his son. I love this. Father and son versus the tribal chief and his family. I'm looking forward to that match more than I am Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre. I could care less. This is another match I don't need to see. Give me some difference. Give me something else. Um,
If there wasn't so much time between matches, that would be my popcorn match.
yeah, it's
And I love Drew McIntyre.
he's great. I love him. He's an amazing fighter. Like now that they got him more of a Scottish warrior, embracing
Yeah.
that, it's going great.
I will say, walking out with that sword this week and then sliding it into the ground and taking it back out, he looked like a little kid playing with daddy's sword. Just don't work with the sword so much. Don't make him do that. You know that wasn't his idea. And then chopping the table in half.
I was okay with the table chopping because it was kind
I
of
was
like
better with the table, but
he was like, I'm pulling out my Scottish warriors, so William Wallace. I think
mhm.
is coming out with the sword, maybe having it in his scabbard, like having it in a scabbard when he walks down to do
I mean,
something like this.
raise it, but I mean, when he slides it into the slot that they put in the stage, the slot is too wide because how are you going to see it with all those lights in your face? It would be impossible, reflecting off the steel and whatever. I get that it has to be huge for him to even spot it, but then it wobbles.
I personally would rather someone roll it out beforehand, like a sword in the stone type thing, and he comes out and just like one hand just shows his beastly strength,
Yeah,
pulling the sword out, flipping it around, holding it, and going for it. I think that probably would be a better entrance for him. But
because
it,
realistically, those swords are heavy,
yeah,
and him wielding it with one hand, that's impressive. No shame on that for sure. Just make him do it kind of
cool.
macho, I guess. Not really macho, but like, I don't know. Let him take the strength with it, not take it away and make it kind of child playish.
Yeah, it should be set up for him to come out, him coming out in
Mhm.
this big thing, going, grabbing the sword, kind of like Arthurian legend, pulling out the
Yeah.
sword, being the actual champion, the ruler of the land type deal. Because that could play into, Roman Reigns when they have Clash of Champions. You have Roman Reigns, who's the, tribal chief here. He's calling himself the tribal chief. Then you have, the Arthurian legend, if you will,
Yeah.
kind of being played with Drew McIntyre being the guy who can wield the sword, of legend and all that, and he's a champion. And so you have these two iconic kind of, historic battles going forth, and they could have like, a Samoan death match or some sort of gimmicky match where you have the Scottish heritage versus, the Samoan pride. And that could be a really interesting type of match.
Mhm.
And that I think would bring a lot of people into it because it's a nice different heritage. People who have been kind of oppressed, the Scottish being oppressed by the Brits, and everybody else being putting down on the Samoan people and that.
Yeah.
And you have these two iconic people taking the championships. So unless they give it up to Ray, which I would be very happy if they gave it to
That
Ray.
would be awesome. I'd like to see Ray hold it a couple more times.
Yeah.
Yeah, as well. I've been a Ray fan since Rey Mysterio Jr. and before. Uh, so that would make me really happy. All that to say, this Hell in a Cell needs to step up because I'm unimpressed thus far. Another one thing that I laughed at, and I shouldn't laugh because it's terrible, but I don't know if you remember way back when Randy Orton, when he was preparing for the RKO, he
Mhm.
used to punch down into the ring.
Yes.
Now, recently he does more of a smack, and he'll punch a little, but it's very structured and it's very much slower than it used to be. Do you know why that is?
Please tell me you hear his hand
He dislocated his shoulder.
doing
Now
that.
this Oh yes. Oh yes. So this is many years ago. Okay. So now Riddle in the ring last week. Um, he was fighting. Randy Orton was ringside. And Riddle does this move and starts punching into the ring. And you could see Randy's face like, don't do that. You could see the haunted memory of the
Just look.
embarrassment and shock. Because when it happened, you saw something was wrong. He was really into it. He was banging down on the ring, and then he just went, and that was that. And then he was off. He went on vacation for a little while. Um, but yeah, I thought that was a glorious little. Fortunately, Riddle was not hurt, and that's why it's hilarious. I don't know if it would even be funnier if he was hurt. I don't want him hurt, but it might even be
it would
funnier
be it
because
would be
lightning
there would be
strikes twice.
yeah, it's a humorous thing. Like
Yeah,
you have Orton who's kind of like, no, you shouldn't be doing this, and then the same thing that happened to him, but luckily he was not, and he's fine.
yeah. It
But
was it was just for somebody who remembers that and saw it, and then to see his face change like don't.
no, probably
It was
afterwards you're like, you know what? Don't go as ham like I did.
don't punch because
Don't
this is
punch.
why.
Yeah, figure out your own bros. static way of doing it. We're coming up here on with 5 minutes left. Any AEW stuff you want to talk about?
Well, they did the classic. They did the beat the tar out of the limo. They added, anybody who knows me personally knows I have a thing for forklifts. I have no reason for this. I think forklifts are the coolest thing ever.
The name itself is a fork is being lifted. That's just awesome by itself.
And they steer with their back, their rear wheels.
The rear
Um,
rear wheels.
yes. Um, I saw this when I was working in a warehouse and decided I was going to be a forklift driver, and everybody laughed at me, and they were right to laugh.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Because you need a driver's license to go get your forklift operating license, which I don't have and have never had. And I was determined to get my driver's license so I could get this license. Anyways, I didn't in the end do any of that. But they brought out a forklift and they drove this forklift right through the side of the limo and then they lifted up and then they dropped it down. This makes me happy. Prior to that, however, the inner circle, when it panned or zoomed out from Jericho to see all of them standing around and on top of the limo with their weapons of choice. I wasn't sure if I was about to watch striptease or the Backstreet Boys with their little leather vests. With, I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but it definitely looks like Rick Sanchez on the back of that vest. Look up Rick and Morty. You'll know who I'm talking about as soon as you see Rick. I love this vest. I need to get me this vest. I need a crossbreed Rick Sanchez vest from the weirdo boy band Sledgehammer video of the forklift car. Highlight of my week, 100%. Um, I didn't laugh, but I definitely enjoyed it. Yes, that and Jungle Boy, a man of few words, going out to this long Kenny Omega rant of Kenny Omega proportions, which are glorious to say, you talk a lot. Classic. You can't get better than that.
No, you can't. It was a great week of Well, somewhat
It was
great
a
week.
great week for AEW.
Yes,
Um,
AEW again jumped in the rankings. With probably multiple pickups coming in the next couple months, depending on how the non-complete clause is for former wrestlers leaving WWE. I do want to, just before we log off here, I do want to talk about some rumors that have been swirling around the NXT regarding one of the greats um, leaving, William Regal. It's being teased that may be replaced as the GM, and rumors have it that Mr. Samoa Joe may be the one replacing him.
that could be cool. I had heard rumors that he was um, going elsewhere. However, I could not find any evidence to support that. So, whether those evidence were based entirely on speculation or hearsay or other, um, I doubt I came across something so delightfully uh,
Joyous.
exclusive that I couldn't find anything to support it that was actually true.
All right.
I don't know how Samoa Joe would replace William Regal. Regal is a character, and he's a long-term character that bridges a lot of generations, realistically, of wrestling watchers. Um, if I had a pick, I'd like to see Billy Corgan come back.
Well, he does own NWA, I believe. Is it NWA or another organization? Because he
I
was
had
involved in TNA and left there because of the stupidity that involved there.
wherever he shows up, I will be watching. Um, looks like I need to go digging for some NWA and how to watch that regularly. and get back to you for the next podcast. Um, but yeah, I want to know everything about Well, I want to know everything about Billy Corgan.
Simple as that. Ladies and
Dot.
gentlemen, if you know anything about Billy Corgan and how you can get in touch with him, please let us know. You can find us every Monday at around 7 o'clock here on the Phil Better Show, and not the Phil Better, sorry, the Wrestling Pain Better Pain.
Better
I am.
Pain Podcast.
Whew, I have too many podcasts, ladies and gentlemen. That's what happens here when you have too many podcasts. You forget them. But you can find us all the time on my profile, Phil Better, and on social medias. You can follow Tyler. Where can we find you on Instagram, darling?
I am the underscore mistress underscore of underscore pain on Instagram. Feel free to follow me. Feel free to reach out. As always, reach out with any tips of any wrestlers from any promotions that I should be looking up. Let me know about them. Let me know where I can find them, be it YouTube or elsewhere, or if I have to reach out to them directly, I will do that. I'm down.
We will. We will.
We will do that. And we will buy their t shirt. So it's a benefit to them. Let
It
us know.
is.
We love.
Let us know, and you can follow me on Instagram at podcaster Phil Better if you want to learn how to become a better podcaster. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Better Pain, a wrestling podcast. I am the podcast mogul, and with me, as always, is the Mistress of Pain herself, Tyler, Geronimo. One day I'll never get them right. We thank you for tuning in and watching and being such an amazing group of fans, and see you next week.
Bye now.